please go check out the Valkyrie Down Project. It is a Warhammer 40k fan-made audio drama, and me and a few other YouTubers are voicing some characters in these. I am Trooper Koch, and there's about 4 episodes out, so please go check this out when you're done with this video. Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today we're going over the Imperium of Man. I also do react videos. I do 2 of them about every week, and then of course every Monday are these lore videos. I also do a short version of this every Tuesday, which is more of a narrative experience. But anyways, let's get this started. So the way I do these is we get into the Warhammer 40k lore first. Then we get into the biblical side of things, so that way it sets up kind of a picture of what's going on in the Bible, sort of. And then we round back to Warhammer 40k lore at the end. But anyways, let's get this started. The Imperium of Man, also called simply the Imperium, is a galaxy-spanning interstellar human empire, the ultimate authority for the vast majority of human species in the Milky Way galaxy in the 41st millennium AD. It is ruled by the living God, who is known as the Emperor of Mankind. And by the way, guys, take the wikis with a grain of salt. They're wrong on a lot of stuff, so just take it with a grain of salt. However, there are other humanoid species classified as imperial citizens, mainly mutant offshoots of genetic baseline humans who are known as abhumans, and include such human subspecies as the ogrins, ratlings, and squats. The founder and ruler of the Imperium is the godlike Emperor of Mankind, the most powerful human psyker ever born. The Emperor founded the Imperium over 10,000 Terran years ago in the late 30th millennium during the Unification Wars on Old Earth, following the apocalyptic period in human history known as the Age of Strife. The Emperor continues, at least nominally, to rule the Imperium as both its political master and its primary religious figure. However, his badly damaged body was interred within the cybernetic life support mechanisms of the arcane device known as the Golden Throne, following his mortal wounding during the ancient interstellar civil war of the Horus Heresy. Because of this terrible fate, the Emperor is incapable of interacting with others on a day-to-day basis, and has left the basic governance of his Imperium to the Senatorium Imperialis, an oligarchical ruling council of the most powerful noble lords and the adepts in the galaxy. The Senatorium Imperialis is currently led by the Emperor's genetic son, Primarch Robu-Guilliman, who chairs the council and directs imperial policy as the Lord Commander of the Imperium and Imperial Regent. And Robu-Guilliman is the Primarch of the Ultramarines, if you don't know. Okay. Oops. Went too far. The Imperium of Man is a war-torn stellar empire, teetering on the brink of collapse. For 10,000 Terran years, it has been ruled by the Deathless Emperor, a being of almost limitless psychic power, to whom thousands of souls are sacrificed daily to provide him the psychic strength to maintain the Imperium's lines of communication and transport, which is the Astronomicon, if you don't know. Oops. Okay. The peoples of the Imperium live in a galaxy where demons are real, mutation is frequent, and death is a constant companion. To be alive in the 41st millennium is to know that the universe is a terrifying and hostile place. That's an understatement. It is a place where you are but one amongst billions, and no matter how heroic your death, you will not be missed. A truly vast domain, the Imperium is spread amongst the many stars of the galaxy. Its territories encompass untold millions of stars and countless trillions of human lives. Man, I really need to get a new mouse. Anyways, in its name, terrible wars are fought and desperate sacrifices made, yet even this river of carnage and blood is a small price to pay. For the Imperium is the guardian of humanity. Were it to pass unto nothingness, so too would the human species, destroyed by enemies uncountable, to the betraying laughter of the dark gods. The Imperium is the largest and currently most powerful political entity in the galaxy. By the way, these dark gods are the powers of chaos. They're in the warp and all that. So some people don't know about Warhammer 40k who watch my content, so I'm just getting that out there. I know most of you guys do know, but anyways. So the Imperium is the largest and currently most powerful political entity in the galaxy, consisting of at least 1 billion human settled worlds, or 1 million human settled worlds, well, dispersed across the Milky Way galaxy. Consequently, an imperial planet might be separated from its closest neighbor by hundreds or even thousands of light years. As a stellar empire, the size of the Imperium cannot be measured in terms of contiguous territory, but only in the number of planetary systems under its control. However, most humans in the galaxy have little day-to-day contact with the government of the Imperium, unless they serve in one of its bureaucratic adepta or run afoul of its various protectors, such as the Inquisition or the Adeptus Arbites. The Imperium is primarily an interstellar tribute empire, allowing its members' worlds to largely govern themselves as long as they recognize the authority of the Emperor and his servants and support the state religion, the Imperial cult, which holds the Emperor to be the one true God of mankind. Every world of the Imperium must also pay the imperial taxes levied on them in the form of troops and material that is known as the Imperial Tithe. I did a video of that last week, so if you want to check that out, it's there. So these resources go to the service of the Astra Militarum and the Navis Imperialis, the armed forces which keep the Imperium united and safe. The Imperial Tithe supports the overall economy of the Imperium by redistributing resources where needed, usually to shore up one region of the Imperium where conflict is raging by drawing resources from more peaceful sectors. In general, the Imperium promotes the development of neo-feudal political system, which the High Lords of Terra and the Inquisition have long believed to be the most stable form of human government. There are few human settled worlds in the galaxy where any but the most wealthy nobles have any say in the government of their planet. And the imperial establishment generally characterizes any movement towards democracy, self-rule, or the overthrow of the neo-feudal system as outright heresy against the divine plan of the God Emperor. This intense need for political stability and the growing military demands upon the imperial system presented by the myriad and growing threats of the 41st millennium have created a repressive and stagnant galactic government. In the present Imperium, science and human progress have essentially been halted in service to the need to simply maintain the crumbling status quo. It is not for nothing that many imperial scholars consider the current age of time ending for mankind. Several alien species and dark mystical forces, chaos, the Tyranids, the craft-world Eldari, and the Drukhari. Drukhari are the dark elves, basically, or the darker Eldari. They come from the Eldar and stuff like that, so get that out there. And the orcs and the Tau and the undying Necrons now challenge the supremacy of the Imperium and humanity's predominant place in the galaxy. From within its own creaking and increasingly stagnant and repressive edifice, the Imperium is threatened more insidiously by rebellion, mutation, dangerous psychers, and subversive chaos cults. However, despite its myriad problems, without the admittedly authoritarian and often harsh protection of the Imperium, mankind as a whole would have fallen prey to the countless perils that threaten it. Without the Imperium of man and mankind's faith in the Emperor who guides it, the human species would have become extinct long ago. Now we're getting into the biblical side of things here. We're going to go over ancient Israel's government structure and their priesthood structure. And then we'll get into their version of the imperial creed, which is God's law. And then the seed of Abraham and who's part of it. But anyways, let's go here. So before the monarchy, Israel was a tribal confederacy led by elders and charismatic judges. And they were a theocracy, right? But anyways, who rose to a power of during crisis. By roughly 1000 BCE, this shifted to centralized monarchy. Almost said 10,000 there. Anyways, the king, viewed as a steward or anointed representative of God. The king was responsible for national defense, justice, and upholding the religious covenant. And Yahweh, it says Yahweh here, but that is not the name of God, guys, real quick. Revelation 19:12, his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. So no man knows the name of God, guys. Okay? Okay. So the king is responsible for national defense, justice, and upholding the religious covenant. Royal court. The king's administration includes scribes for judicial, accounting tasks, cupbearers, and military command. Tribal elders. Even under the king, tribal leaders continued to manage local affairs and acted as intermediaries between the government and the people. Prophets. These individuals served as check on the king's power, acting as divine messengers who critique corruption and ensured adherence to religious law. Okay, real quick, there were women prophets. Exodus 15:20. And Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and dances. Okay, then we got Deborah, who was also a leader of Israel, one of the judges. And Judges chapter 4, verse 4. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Israel at that time. So she was a prophet and a leader. So there you go. Women can be prophets. Okay, so priesthood structure. They got the high priest, the highest ranking religious figure responsible for overseeing temple administration, finances, and the most sacred rituals such as Day of Atonement. He would also go into the Holy of Holies, sprinkle the blood on the mercy seat, all that stuff, right? The only one who could do it, it was a picture of Jesus Christ. Okay. Then he got the Kohanim, or the priests, male descendants of Aaron, who performed daily sacrifices, rituals, and blessings. During the temple era, they were organized into 24 priestly divisions that rotated service weekly. Then you got the Levites, other members of the tribe of Levi who served as assistants to the priests. They performed duties like temple maintenance, music, and guarding of the gates. Then the Sanhedrin in later periods, a council of elders and chief priests known as the Sanhedrin, judged both secular and religious matters. All right, so we have all that. So now, real quick, so Romans 9 through 11. So tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, of the Jew first, also of the Gentile. So Jews can be evil, it says, right? But glory and honor, and also Gentiles. Let me say that as well. But glory and honor and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, also to the Gentiles. So there's good Jews and bad good Jews, bad Jews, and then good Gentiles, bad Gentiles. For there was no respect of persons with God. So God doesn't hold the Jew, higher than a Gentile, right? Of his people and all that. So for as many have sinned without law shall also perish without law, and as many have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified. That's interesting. Because, real quick, see if I can find it. Right. 1 John 3:4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law of God. So it's lying, stealing, cheating on your wife, stuff like that. But we'll get into that. So let's get into this Abraham's seed. Who's part of Israel, right? Genesis 12:3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. All right. So we have all the families of the earth that are blessed by Abraham's seed. So that means everybody on the earth, Gentile or Jew, can be of Abraham's seed. Okay. Right here, Galatians 3:16. And now Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not unto seeds as of many, but as of one, into thy seed, which is Christ. Verse 17. In this I say that the covenant that was confirmed before God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul, that it should make the promise of none effect. Real quick. Daniel 9:27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. So this gets portrayed as the beast. This is not the beast of Revelation or the Antichrist. This is Jesus. Okay. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. Because, real quick, it says the covenant. Right here. And I will say that the covenant that was confirmed before God in Christ. Okay. In the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So, we have this covenant, but now, check this out. We're going to go down to verse 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, and there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. And if ye be Christ, then are ye Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise. The promise was to Israel, right? Well, we become part of Israel, which Israel means the people of God. So Gentiles and Jews, both of them, can become Abraham's seed. So right here, Isaiah chapter 56 brings in the stranger, right? Which is the Gentile. And thus saith the Lord, keep ye judgment. Or I said Isaiah chapter 56. Sorry, anyways. Thus saith the Lord, keep ye judgment, and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Blessed is the man that doeth this, and the Son of Man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing any evil. Neither let the son of the stranger that had joined himself to the Lord speak, saying, the Lord hath utterly separated me from his people. So let's go down just a little bit here, just to make things go quicker here. Also, verse 6, also the sons of the stranger that join themselves to the Lord to serve him and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants. Everyone that keepeth the Sabbath of polluting it and taketh hold of the covenant. Even them I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar, for mine house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Okay, so now everybody can be a part of this if you choose to follow God, right? Right here, Revelations 1:6. So when you believe in Jesus, you take on his inheritance, which Revelation 1:6, and he hath made us kings and priests unto God his Father, and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Oh, wait a minute. Not 1,000 years, huh? Forever and ever. Very interesting. But anyways. Now, let's get into this law of God, right? The Israel's imperial creed per se, right? Matthew 22, 37 to 40. And Jesus said unto them, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. Okay, how do we do that? Let me see if I can find it here. John 14:15. If you love me, keep my commandments. Even further, 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. Don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat on your wife, don't treat your neighbors badly, right? But Jesus puts it all in 2 commandments here. Oh, well, I'm screwing up here. Okay. Start in verse 38. This is the first and great commandment. So, love God with all your heart, right? And then the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. There it is. Simple. 2 commandments. Love God and treat others the way you want to be treated. Right? That's the law of God. Now, what was going on in Jesus' day is they had what is called the oral Torah, which it came from Babylon. And basically, God gave the plebs the 10 commandments and all that or whatever. And he gave the wise his oral commandments, the ways to follow God's way, right? Secret ways. When somebody does that, it starts to be a little fishy. You know what I mean? But God said, don't add or subtract to his word. And what they were doing was adding to his word, saying you got to clap your hands 5 times and wash your hands 7 times before you can eat. And on the Sabbath, you can't do anything. Where did the Bible say that? Jesus is sitting there saying, he's like, if a donkey falls in a hole, aren't you going to pull that donkey out? Right? So they are not grievous. And now, right here, Jesus did away with the Levitical system, right? So we no longer stone or anything like that, right? So Romans 8:2. For the law of spirit of life in Christ Jesus hath made me free from the law of sin and death. Okay. I'm sorry. So the wages of sin is what? Death. What did Jesus do? He died for us, right? So now we're not under the law of sin and death. But real quick, of course, sin, where is it? Right. 1 John 3:4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. When Mary Magdalene, he tells her, sin no more, right? And what he means is, don't, turn away from that sin, right? Of what was breaking the law, doing all that. But anyways, let's move on here. And the next thing is following the doctrine of Christ, or doctrine of Jesus Christ, which is John 14:23. Jesus answered him and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my words. Same thing that he was saying, keep my commandments and stuff like that. What he says, right? And my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode in him. Of course, we got all that. Right here, Revelation 14:12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Oh, well, that ain't. Yeah. But anyways. So, the seed of Abraham is us. We are now anyone, Jew, Gentile, Greek, whatever, who accepts Jesus, they become part of the house of Israel. And you know what? Right here, Isaiah 14:1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. So, we're all part of the seed of Abraham, if you follow God's ways and all that, right? Even before Jesus, it was like that. Then you have his laws, which are, where is it? Right there, the 2 commandments. Love God and treat others the way you want to be treated. It's that simple. And we no longer, throw people off buildings or whatever, that other religions and stuff do, right? Or stone, which the Israelites did and all that. You don't do that anymore. That's done away with, right? And the reason why that had to happen is that blood needed to come out. It was tainted. And what happens when blood comes out of us? Well, we get ended, right? So then you got to replace it. And that's why Jesus died, right? That's why he was sacrificed on the cross and all that. God needed some blood, right, to replace our own tainted blood. But anyways, guys, now we're rounding back into Warhammer 40k lore here. So the Imperial government is divided into 4 main bodies: the Adeptus Terra, the Priesthood of Terra, the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Priesthood of Mars, and the Adeptus Ministorum, the State Church, and Inquisition, the secret police force. These in turn answer to the Senatorum Imperialis, who rule in the name of the Emperor. In practice, most of the organizations comprising the Imperium are divisions of the vast Adeptus Terra. There are countless divisions, and some are so secretive their existence is known only to a few. The most well-known of the secret organizations is the Officio Assassinorum. Other organizations are secret enough that nothing besides their mere existence is known, such as the Officio Sabatorum and the Templars Psychologists. But the most important well-known imperial organizations, so you can go check those out right here. You can go to the Lexicanum, but the list is all there. Just put in Imperium of Man, or you can just pause this and check it out. But it'll take too long. So there you guys go. We're going to wind it down here. I want to thank everybody who liked the video, and if you disliked the video, thank you for at least giving me a chance. And I want to promote my memberships for only $5 a month. There will be some videos that are strictly for members only, but it won't contain any biblical stuff or anything that the content that I do now already. It'll be mainly gaming videos, with you guys, and then Q&A videos, other ideas that come to mind or whatever, and that'll be officially for the members, so that way they get their $5 worth, right? And also you'll have access to the Discord and stuff like that to get a hold of me and whatnot. And there will be a free part of that as well. Okay. Anyways, guys, thank you, and you guys have a wonderful day.